Hi, I'm Josh Brown. Welcome to FAQ. In this series, we take your most frequently asked questions and attempt to answer them. Today's a tough one. Who are the 5 greatest investors of all time? Our lists won't all agree with each other, but Michael Batnick, Ben Carlson, and myself, we debate it, we think it over, we look at the track records, and we come up with some answers. Stick around.
Without money, he has nothing to manage.
So my top 5 after much deliberation. First I said Benjamin Graham.
Graham over Keynes? No.
Graham, by far the most influential investor in history. Think about how many people came from his lineage.
Well, Buffett.
He's like
the Bill Walsh.
Parcells. Oh yeah, Walsh. Okay, that works too.
Sorry.
Yeah.
His coaching tree or whatever is greater than anything that's ever been created. His books, his teaching, all the people that came out from him. He basically taught Warren Buffett how to invest, which is pretty impressive. Everyone that came away from him and understood his value investing, I think, is just he's probably the most influential investor of all time.
Bill Miller. And this might be a little bit controversial because the end of his career was not as phenomenal as the middle part of his career.
But I feel like if you made it into The Big Short for like an investment blunder, that takes you down a notch.
It's got to.
No, I take it you have no plans to sell your $200 million in bear stock?
No, as a matter of fact, when we're done here, I'll probably go out and buy some more.
But I want to focus on the middle part of his career because I think he did something that nobody before him and no one after him has ever done, will ever do. From 1991 to 2005, Bill Miller managing the Legg Mason Capital Management Value Trust, which is a mutual fund, outperformed the S&P in 15 consecutive years. I don't think we will ever see anyone do that ever again, quite frankly. So for that reason, I think Bill's got to be included in that top 5.
I've got Jim Simons as, I guess, top 5. I don't want to say necessarily number 1, but 39% a year after fees, 66% on average, I think, gross. Okay, so objectively, the Medallion Fund is the greatest investment vehicle of all time. But I wouldn't say that Simons is the best investor of all time because he wasn't even the investor.
He wouldn't even say it. But if he's like the majority owner
but I guess he
of
owns
the fund,
it. He owns it. So
I feel like he has to be on there.
He's like the best fund manager, like manager of managers.
Just an incredible system. And if you haven't read the Greg Zuckerman book, The Man Who Solved the Markets, I highly recommend it. It goes into as much detail as you would want to know about what they actually did. And a lot of the stuff was odd stats type stuff, just like totally sort of crazy in the data, stuff that really necessarily wouldn't make sense.
Next on my list, I have Jim Simons from the Medallion Fund at Renaissance Technologies. 66% since 1988 is crazy, even if you don't understand how the heck he did it. I don't think that's ever going to be done again.
But I thought it was really interesting that it was just one model. And so if you asked Jim Simons, how does it work? I don't know that I don't even know that anybody can necessarily succinctly explain what the model does. I think it's just sort of beyond our grasp.
I've got Jim Simons on my list of top 5 investors. I don't think anyone would argue just based on pure raw numbers for the Renaissance Fund and the sheer length of time that they've been able to outperform and generate enormous gains. That Renaissance as a firm should be here. And Jim Simons is really the architect of the whole thing. So this was an easy choice.
So Soros and Druckenmiller.
I don't need both.
I do. Druckenmiller. He never had a down year. I think in 30 years of managing money, he never had a down year. And in 120 quarters, he only lost money 5 times.
Are you serious?
Are we sure about that, though?
I'm pretty sure that's true. I mean,
Never had a down year while at Soros Fund Management.
No, and when he was doing Duquesne, his family office. So one of the reasons why he is so impressive, I think there was a line like, he understood economics better than the traders, and he could trade better than the economists.
Yeah, but in his
like
paper
that.
trading account, he's down like 50% over the last 4 years.
Okay, whatever. But
But he did it like it's you can't hold like the end of someone's career against them.
Oh, yeah.
Plus,
people's careers end for a reason.
Plus, it's the Fed's fault, which we all know.
So how long was he
But
working with Soros for?
I think it was like a decade, maybe.
Okay.
But what they were doing was totally uncorrelated. Like, there was no beta there. It was not, oh, well, he got the benefit of value investing. It was like pure alpha.
And that's like, you can't teach that. That was like gut instinct.
I think that one of the things about him that's so underrated is I guess you could say his feel for the market and the way that he dealt with himself and the way that if he was going through a down, a losing period, he wouldn't press his bets like so many amateurs do. Certainly myself included, where you try and revenge trade and make it back quicker than you lost it, or make it back the same way that you lost it. But when he was going through a tough period, what he would do is he would put out little feelers, just a fifth of the trade here, and if it wasn't working, he would take the position off. And once the market was in sync with his views, he would bet big. And betting big when you're up, I found to be the absolute hardest thing. And not to brag, but I did 6% a year for 7 years. So just saying. And then his partner, George Soros, again, taught Druckenmiller how to really go for the jugular. And these are uncorrelated returns, truly. You cannot, do any regression analysis and say, well, he was doing this style or that style. It was all over the place. It was across multiple market regimes, different asset classes, pure alpha, for lack of a better word.
Number 3 on my list, George Soros. I think George Soros, both in terms of the amount of money he's made, but also his influence, really goes without saying. George's macro bets are iconic. Some of the greatest trades of all time were things that he and his fund were involved with. And the sheer length of time that Soros has been at it, I think, merit a position on the list for George.
George Soros at the Quantum Fund apparently did something like 32% per year from 1969 to 2000. He basically invented macro hedge fund investing, and when he broke the pound, I think that's one of the most impressive feats that an investor has ever had.
Well, who definitely wasn't one of the greatest investors of all time, but would be on everybody's list it's true, but Jesse Livermore.
He's most quoted.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, so I think he's the worst investor of all time.
Blew up.
Possibly, blew up a lot.
But that's why he's so great, is all of the behavioral lessons that you could learn from him. But
he couldn't learn them himself, and he quoted himself all the time.
Oh, he knew exactly where he was fucking
I think
up.
he literally made $100 million and lost it all.
How about
Twice. 2 times.
I think he blew up 3 times maybe.
Right, but I'm saying he got to that same level.
$100 million in 1930. If you trust these numbers, I don't see how this person could not be on this list. Richard Dennis allegedly borrowed $1,600 and turned it into $200 million.
Is that the turtle trader guy?
Yes. So
Okay.
120% for 19 years.
It's ridiculous.
If those numbers are even remotely close, how could this person not be in the top 5?
Are we doing Swensen?
That's a good point.
Are we saying that that's like a hugely influential
That's a good point.
person with great numbers? Mm-hmm. And definitely qualifies on how much time he's been doing it. Okay. Well, you think that's obvious, right?
Yes, by far the most influential, greatest institutional investor ever. David Swensen is basically the Warren Buffett of institutional investing. He really pioneered the endowment model, which was going towards more illiquid fund structures and private assets, really before anyone else in the 1980s. When he was pretty young at the time, too, and went to more of an equity-only model for investing. His numbers are just otherworldly in terms of the amount of value he's created at Yale.
My number 2 is David Swensen. Swensen, to me, is one of the most influential investors of all time. In addition to the track record he assembled running the Yale endowment, I think he's informed generations of up-and-coming investors about asset allocation and being different. And going outside of just stocks and bonds in order to get returns.
And then there's Warren Buffett, who has just unbelievable numbers. 57 to 68 when he had his family office, he did 31% before fees, 25% after. Since he took over Berkshire in 65, he's done 20.6 versus 9.6. That's to 2018.
Wow. Insanity.
14 years from 1976 to 1989, he did 21,000% or 47% per year.
Right, so if he just did that, he would still be in the conversation.
Yes.
Just that one streak that you referenced.
2.5% million total returns, 2.5 million total returns, versus 14,000% in change for the S&P. Buffett did it over 5+ decades, maybe 6, I guess, if you count the investment partnership. So his track record is just unreal.
We've had this talk before, but could Buffett start with $1 million today and not do it again? But could he destroy the markets?
No.
How about, here's another one. Could Simons do it again if he started today?
No. Nobody could do it again. There's nobody.
I don't think so either.
I don't think that there's anyone that you could drop into 2019 who built a track record in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s that it's just like you would bet on that. I would not bet on that.
They would be good. Like Buffett could run a small cap value portfolio today and probably crush, but not to the same degree that he did.
Go back to, no, because, well, the question is, did he exist? In other words, Are you erasing him from history and reintroducing him into the wild now?
This is like a Doc Brown discussion here.
No, but you know why I'm asking that? Because think about how many people are investing the way he invested.
Yeah, true.
So is it like a yesterday situation where the Beatles never existed and you're writing those songs now?
Well, here's one of the reasons why to me Buffett is so impressive, because even in the 1950s, he told you exactly what he was going to do. So that whole luck versus skill, he told you exactly what he was going to do, and he never changed.
And it worked.
I mean, he changed the stripes a little bit in terms of the way that he invested, but he did exactly what he said he was going to do always.
Well, he kind of went from like deep value
to
growth.
Yeah. So his methodology changed a little bit, but he was very clear with what he was going to do. Buffett, just obviously he had a lot of tailwinds. He was in the right place at the right time. The U.S. economy, the U.S. stock market, but he always said what he was going to do, and then he did exactly that. So in terms of luck versus skill, I think that you could safely say that what he did was skill. No accidents there.
My first one is Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. Do Buffett and Munger share?
I don't think so.
Do you
Right?
think they're separate, even though they manage the same pool of money? I don't think we could separate them. I grouped them together. They are a team in picking stocks, in thinking about how to invest, and now in hiring younger investors to help run Berkshire Hathaway's massive capital. And what they've done, I think, is unparalleled anywhere in finance. So I would have to say that they're my number one.
I think that if I had to like lock it up and throw away the key, the things that will not change for me are Buffett, Simons, and Druckenmiller. I think that Soros and Richard Dennis are probably, you could argue whether you put Ben Graham or David Swensen or anybody else. But today, these are my top 5. What do you think?
Lots of people I left off the list. Seth Klarman, Stanley Druckenmiller, David Tepper, Bill Gross, but my 5 again: Benjamin Graham, Jim Simons, Warren Buffett, David Swensen, and George Soros.
Thanks for joining us on FAQ. We love your feedback. Let us know what your thoughts are on our top 5 investor lists in the comments section below. And tell us what we should cover next time. We love your questions. We love coming up with responses. We'll be back soon.